Well, hello, my name is Linda MacCubbin, and I wanted to share with you some of the reasons why I feel that domestic kindness program is so important. I just recently retired from being a full-time staff member at our church for 19 years as the director of children's ministry, and I also served as the director of women's ministry for several years. As you can imagine, I have talked to lots of people over the years, both young and old, about their experiences growing up. Regrettably, some of them were raised or lived in an abusive home. Their stories are devastating. I found that an abuser is like a tornado that leaves a long and wide debris field behind as it continues down its path of utter destruction, never looking back. An abuser also leaves a long and wide debris field behind, and sadly doesn't bother to look back at the damage they have caused, nor oftentimes do they offer to help clean it up. I do believe the church has an opportunity to be on the front lines to help those who have been hurt. Although I was on the church staff, that didn't qualify me as a counselor, and I had no training in this area. This may be one of the reasons why those who came to the church seeking help were given poor counsel that led to further problems for the abused person. Frequently, this would result in the victim leaving the church and sometimes even their faith. So I am personally thankful for the Domestic Kindness program and how it's trying to bring awareness and to help educate the church on what healthy relationships should look like and offer resources in need. One thing I discovered, and something that I imagine most of you would agree with, is that few people can stop the generational sin of abuse without God's help. I'm a very visual person, so I compare generational abuse to being on the teacup ride at Disneyland. Many of you probably have been on that ride. You know how it starts. Starts off slowly, and then you start to turn the wheel, and it goes faster and faster. And as it goes, the world around you begins to look like a blur of objects and colors that make it difficult to focus on anything as you continue to spin at a higher speed. At some point, it begins to make you feel dizzy, and you want to they want to turn their situation around. But how? How do you turn it in the opposite direction? I have often asked or given this scenario to those who are suffering and would ask, if you could stop the cycle, what would you have to do? And many were not sure. I believe with God's help, the first step one needs to make is to let go of the wheel. Stop turning it. That takes courage and a lot of conviction. Gradually, the spinning begins to slow down, enough where you can start to grab the wheel and stop it. Finally, with the help of God and others and a lot of effort, one begins to turn the wheel in the opposite direction. I have yet to find one person who has been able to stop that cycle and turn their lives around without God's help. But listen, if the church is not able to come alongside and give wise counsel, many may turn away from the only saving resource that is available to them. That is why it is imperative for the church to be better educated so that we can turn the tide of this horrible epidemic. I shared earlier about the debris field that an abuser leaves behind, and one of them is sex trafficking. After I retired, I wanted to start a program to help educate, equip, and encourage those within our church and the surrounding areas on how to protect their loved ones from sex traffickers. The number of cases worldwide is overwhelming. One of the worst areas is the United States. After talking with several young ladies who had been in that situation, I found there was a common denominator. Most of them came from an abusive background. Either they were abused growing up or were in a family where domestic abuse was occurring. After doing further study on this, I found that sex traffickers know who will be an easy target and who they can groom to be their sex slave. A person who comes from an abusive background makes a great candidate because they won't mind getting hurt. They are used to being mistreated or seeing someone being mistreated. Once they start grooming the individual, it becomes very difficult to rescue them. For many reasons, they don't want to leave or they can't. Again, that is why it is so important to educate and equip those within our church and community on how to protect their loved ones from abusers. And I believe the DK or Domestic Kindness Bible studies help by instructing on what healthy relationships should be like and how to recognize the warning signs or yellow flags of those relationships that could be dangerous.